Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Spear Tips. I'm back with Chris.
How's it going, Ash?
It's going good, man. And you brought in your beautifully painted Disciples of Tzeentch Spearhead to play, the Fluxblade Coven. So if you haven't been through this series before, this is our companion series to Spearheads, where we do faction guides as we play through them for each of these factions and give our impressions. So you've just played a game with them. Mm-hmm. You played against my Stormcast, my Vigilant Brotherhood.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you didn't actually buy the Spearhead box. You're an AOS gamer who was playing AOS 3 and had a lot of these models from before.
Yeah, I had some because I'm a Thousand Sun player, 40k, so that's where the demons and the Tzaangors came from.
Right.
And then my first try at AOS, I thought I would add the Carrick acolytes in, and got a very disjointed, hard to play army. Half mortals, half demons.
Yep.
Didn't really do what it was meant to do. It was too all over. But
That's awesome.
But it was great because I already had the models, so it was real easy to assemble this. I just substituted the Tzaangor Shaman in for the Magister.
Which is fine because it's like a 1-to-1. It's just a guy in a disc of Tzeentch.
And his spell is to turn people into Tzaangor. So I figure
He's just one step
he
ahead.
practiced it in the mirror one day, and here he is, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
He's a were Tzaangor. He
Yeah.
turns into a Tzaangor when it gets to midnight. He's like a Mogwai. They got him wet and he turned into a Tzaangor.
Exactly.
So it's funny because this is a lot of people came to Spearhead this way, either from 40k or from other I collected these miniatures or I played Silver Tower, and I've got friends who are collecting into Spearhead now with existing collections, and I love that you used your Shaman as the hero because I did that with my Night Haunts. I didn't have the Night of Sorrows on foot, so I used my Lord Executioner.
Yeah.
And I'd collected it through the Soul Wars box set,
Yep.
right? So I think this is going to be an interesting thing that people can access Spearhead in this way if they want to. And I like that that's giving more on-ramps into trying out AOS.
Yeah,
I like that just adds this on-ramp basically for people to give it a go. So you didn't build the Spearhead box, so you didn't necessarily have the experience the way that it would be if someone's picking up from today. But what was it like to paint these guys? How was the experience for someone who's this was your first kind of crazy demon army?
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting because I painted them at different times
Yeah.
in my painting journey, if you will. So the Tzaangors, most of them were pretty early on, so they're very blue and very covered in shade at the end. But they're great. There's a lot of trim and stuff on them. They're a bit of a pain, but they've got the flesh, which you can do blue or pink or whatever color you want.
Kind of start with the big color of the blue, and then do.
And then you hit the trim, so they're a good learning model. I think the Carrick acolytes are great. I got them when I wanted to practice painting flesh, actually, and just a bunch of Ripley dudes, right?
That's right.
And I did
0% body fat.
Yeah,
dude's just doing beach body workouts at all times.
And
V-shred.
And because they're so muscly, it's almost easier than painting skin normally.
It's
right.
true,
Everything's super emphasized, so it's a good learning.
They take the contrast paint really well.
Exactly. I did them old school because it was, I think, pre-contrast paint. Or at least I pre-contrast for
So you
me
did a
anyway.
flesh tone and then wash them with the brown?
Yeah, well, I think I just, I don't even know if I washed them. I think I just did darker and then lighter. I got a tutorial from Squidmar. Someone like that, right? On how to do
prime white, throw down different washes to make them look like flesh.
Exactly. And so I did a bunch of shades and stuff. So they're a lot of fun. When I did the Screamers and the Flamers, I was trying to practice doing wet blending.
It's like blue to purples.
Yeah, so there's a lot of wet blending in those that were, of middling quality. And if you want to practice eyes, I mean, the Screamers are perfect for that. They just you can do whatever sort of eye. And again, it's Tzeentch, right? So you can always have fun with it. You can always get something extra.
It's funny. I feel like Tzeentch and Nurgle in particular, because they're about either decay or the fire and change, they're really forgiving for a beginner painter because almost the messier or weirder it is, the better it looks.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're going to the theme more. And so I think that's a really key takeaway is they might look intimidating, but the painting, the experimenting with your painting style actually really fits that faction in particular.
Yeah.
And so you get this really fun sort of overall sort of finish to them, and it's kind of forgiving in ways you wouldn't think it would be forgiving for someone who's trying new things.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No. So they were a lot of fun to paint. So it was great.
So let's talk about what comes in the box. So you get a Magister of Tzeentch, you get 3 Flamers of Tzeentch, 3 Screamers of Tzeentch, 5 Tzaangors, which is actually a 10-man box just divided in 2, and then 10 Carrick acolytes. Let's go through and run down the units. But before we do that, They have a battle trait. Every one of these spearheads does. Yours is just cheating.
Cheating.
So
exactly. So it's what is it? Masters of Destiny. So at the start of the game, you roll 9 dice because that's each's number, and you get to sit those aside. And before you roll, you can use them to substitute.
So when you really need something, you can substitute any of the dice in a roll for one of these like Destiny dice.
Exactly. And it's I think it's what is it? It's casting, run, charge, hit, wound, and save. So it's all things you want to roll high on. So the 1s and 2s I rolled in our game at the start were no use to me, but I got to use the 3, for a guaranteed wound or something at some point. So it's just fun. And when you do roll a few 6s at the start of the game,
you can fudge some dice.
Yep.
And there is an ability potentially to get more.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll talk about that later, but one of the enhancements will allow you to get more.
And that's it. That's all you have to remember. You get these 9 dice. You can kind of fudge rolls with them. It means that some things can be super forgiving.
Yeah.
So you've got your Magister. Let's talk about this guy. What's this guy's jam? This is you've got a bunch of fast moving units and a bunch of slow moving units. This guy's in the fast category.
He is very much. So he got 14-inch move. He's got 6 wounds and control 2. He's your general. He can stab a little bit, but I don't think you really want to get him.
He's kind of standoffish.
Yeah, if he's fighting, then things are probably things have gone terribly.
It's turned 4. It's getting dark out.
Exactly. But he does have his rune staff, which it's a hit to 3, wound on 4, no rend, but D3 damage.
And it shoots almost the board. It
shoots 18 inches. Yeah. So you can always pop it off. And then he's got the Bolt of Change, which is the nice ability. That's a spell. Goes off on a 6-up, inflicts D3 mortal wounds, and if you kill some units, you get some Tzaangors back.
Oh, nice. Okay, fantastic. So he allows you to recycle. So if you slay a model, not if you do damage, if you slay
a
so you want to like pick things with 1 or 2 wounds,
exactly,
right? Because then on a 3+, if it's 2 wounds, you'll get the new model back when you're Tzaangor.
But it's nice to either finish off that one wound left guy or 1 health left guy, or to take out a screening.
And that's long range too, because it's a Tzaangor unit within 18 of him. So it's like you literally
within
pick
18,
a soul up and stick it back in a Tzaangor body.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't need to get up close and personal.
Okay. And he's not terrible at fighting. His Warp Steel Sword is 3 attacks, 3s and 4s, D3 damage. So you can't crack armor very well.
No, he's got 1 rend on the disc, but
which is just 2 more attacks that are reversed, 4s and 3s instead of 3s and 4s. Yeah, cool.
The
he flies,
to get through.
Which means he can walk over the walls for free. He's cavalry, hero, and wizard. Sorry?
I was going to say, in our game, his ability to move scored me some points, right? He was getting within 3 inches of the edges of boards. He was shooting across the board and claiming objectives. So, it's super
and he's
useful.
2 control, which means he can potentially contest or control something. It's another hero, at least.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got the carrot guy. Who's your other fast mover?
The other fast mover would be your Screamers of Tzeentch. So they go 14 inches. You got 3 of them in a unit, 3 models. They have 3 health. They hit decently hard, 3 attacks, 4 up, 3 up, 1 rend, 1 damage. Their kind of neat ability is they have slashing fins. So when you fly over another unit, any of the Screamers that fly over, you roll a 4 up for each of those models, and it does a mortal wound. So kind of nice to just tag people as you're going past them,
or to pick on like individual heroes, right? Because you can target anything you move over. So
exactly.
Like a lone hero can't be protected by the guard ability. You just fly over and do some mortal wounds to him.
So it's nice because you often want to throw these guys into the backfield or have them sneak up to do something, and be able to throw some mortal wounds on the way in is very nice.
And they have a ward save. All your demons have a ward save of 6+.
Yeah,
which is
6
nice.
up. Yeah. Which
your second fastest unit, this is like the in-between, is the other demon unit, the Flamers?
Yeah, the Flamers. So the Flamers only move 9 inches, 3 of them as well, and 2 health each. They're nice because they've got a good attack with their ranged attack, with their word flame, which is 3 attacks, 3s to 4s, and D3 damage. Only 12-inch range.
Yeah, but it also is better at fighting big units. As soon as there's 5 or more models in a unit, it gets +1 to hit too.
Exactly, yeah. So it's good against the big
Hordes.
screening units, the big horde units, exactly.
Skaven, Clan Rats, like things like Night Goblin Grots, those little guys that are coming in 10s, these guys are going to hit on 2s, which is pretty cool.
And one of the regimental abilities can give these guys rend on their attacks.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Which is pretty nice, especially.
And that's a lot of attacks. It's 9 shots with the 3 of them.
Yeah, great for throwing into the hordes, like you said, knocking a few dudes out.
They can fight too, just not very well. They do 1 damage. They have the same stat line: 3s and 4s, 1 damage, no rend.
But again, and a 6 up ward. Yeah. They can fly.
Little glassy, one less wound than the flamers, so there's only 6 wounds total in the unit. But you have 6 units in this group, which is crazy.
Yeah,
that's a huge unit count for a spearhead.
Yeah, so you should be able to screen them.
Yeah,
you should be able to have them in their backyard.
It
didn't work out for me in our game, but that's all right.
So then you got your 2 main fighting units, which is your Tzaangors, 2 units of 5. What are these guys like?
So the Tzaangors are tough little guys. They've got 2 attacks each, 4 up, 3 up. And 1 damage, just a 5-up save, which pretty much everyone has in this army, except for your general. They do have a passive ability, long planned strike. So if you get them into the enemy zone, a crit does 2 hits, which is pretty nice. If you get all 5 of them in, you're doing 10 damage.
So not great defensively, but great offensively.
Yeah. You want to throw these guys in, and as you mentioned, there's ways with the Bolt of Change spell to bring them back, and there's also regimental ability to turn Carrick acolytes into Tzaangor. So you kind of want to throw them in, have them get chewed up a bit, and bring them back, and just have them be this reoccurring problem. Yeah.
So no range attack on those guys, but average to okay melee ability.
And they got 2 wounds, so they got a bit of staying power.
Yeah, a little bit of staying power. And then you got your Carrick acolytes, which is your big 10-man unit. And these guys are actually weirdly almost like a hold the line unit. So 10 guys means 10 wounds. Same number of wounds as the Carrick acolytes total. But you're losing a model every time you take one.
Yeah. And they do have a shooting attack, which is nice. You roll 2d6 before you do your shooting attack, and there's a chance on a 6-up you're going to get some rend on that. So 4 up to hit, 3 up to wound, 1 attack each. So in the early rounds, you're probably throwing about 10 down range, and if you get that 1 rend on it,
that's not nothing with an 18-inch range either. No, they're like a perfect bodyguard for that Magister, because if he's further away from the enemy, then they cannot shoot the Magister.
Yeah,
and you're gonna have he's cavalry, so you will be able to shoot.
You'll still be able.
You'll be able to shoot him, but you always be -1 to hit. Yep. But you'll be able to shoot the same distance that he can with his Tzeentchian rune staff. So you're all throwing stuff at 18 inches, and you're contesting all those objectives with them.
Yeah, and I think if one of the regimental abilities turns these guys, we'll get to in a second. So I think in that case, you want to probably round 2 or 3 throw them into the thick of it. Maybe they stand off in round 1 and get some shots off. But then
have them contesting something important, so you have to deal with them. And that way they start using their cycling abilities.
And
That's
then
cool.
you get
so let's talk about pre-battle then, because now we have to talk about attacker and defender. So the first thing we have to discuss, basically, is when we make the initiative roll, do you think this Spearhead favors choosing the turn order to go first and second, in which case you'd be also declaring your regimental abilities and stuff first? Or do you think you want to be able to set the table where the terrain is and choose the realm?
Yeah, that's tough. I think I'd want to be going second with this one.
Okay.
I think you want to put your Tzaangors up where they can perhaps get even stuck in and get them into battle right off the hop, possibly countercharging. But if your enemy comes in and hits them, it's not.
So picking attacker so that you can choose to go second.
Exactly. Picking attacker so you can choose to go second.
Okay. Yeah. So then what are your regimental abilities? You have 2.
Yeah. So the first one's transient form. So that's you roll a dice each time a friendly Carrick acolyte dies. On a 4-up, they turn into a Tzaangor. If the Tzaangor is within 9 inch.
And that's all the time. Model. That's all the time. So basically you have 5 more Tzaangors. Yeah. If you roll the average and you've got and you keep these guys positioned correctly, you've got 5 more Tzaangors that will show up over the course of the game.
And for an army that already has a bunch of bodies, to be able to throw some back on is pretty fantastic.
And then your other one is Eternal Conflagration.
Yeah, which is just adds rend to the characteristics of those flamers of Tzeentch. So maybe if you were against an army that had a lot of horde coming at you, that would possibly be the more...
Yeah, or a bunch of armor.
Yeah, more useful ones, or a bunch of armor. Yeah.
It might have actually been a good choice in the game you just played, because I do have a 3+ armor save across the entire army.
Yeah.
But they died so fast that it probably wouldn't have mattered. It ended up that you did use transient form more often.
I did use it a fair bit.
And being on the board is a huge deal. And it's funny because I think transient form even becomes more relevant late game when we get to talking about battle tactics cards, if you're holding on to a certain battle tactics card too. So I would tend to agree. I think transient form is the more valuable of these two, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Corner case, you might want to pick Eternal Conflagration if you're fighting an army that's got good armor.
Yeah.
Other than that, you're probably better off just getting guys back.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
And it's more thematic. It feels like the lore and thematic appropriate option.
These Carrick acolytes are dying and then coming back to life as Tzaangors. All right, so your 4 enhancements now. These are all going on a support character, which is your Magister.
Yeah.
What do we got? We got 2 hero phase spells.
Yeah, essentially.
And then a couple of once per battles in the combat phase.
Exactly. So the one I chose for our game was Shield of Fate, which is a 6-up spell and gives you a 6-up ward on a model.
Or a 5-up on your demons.
Or 5-up on the demons.
Which is a big deal because the Screamers can get a 5-up all of a sudden.
Yeah, which is pretty nice. Or I used it on the Tzaangors just to give them a bit more stain power.
You can also combine it with Steel Defense to give yourself a 4+ ward save. Right? So if you use that card out of your hand.
Oh, I haven't seen that card yet. Okay, yeah.
Steel Defense, you get it's only one combat phase.
Yeah.
But basically, when someone targets you with an attack, you can play Steel Defense, get a 5+ ward. You get +1 again from Shield of Fate. So then all of a sudden you'd have a 4+ ward save for the rest of that combat phase.
Yeah.
So anyone who attacks you from then all of a sudden has a 4+ ward save. So it's a worthy combination. And it means you can give a 6+ ward to units that don't normally have a ward save, like your Tzaangors.
Yeah. And it's an 18-inch range. So you're doing it basically anyone
Same
on the
ranges
board.
that all your other spells
Yeah,
got.
anyone on the board is going to get them.
Yeah.
So the next spell is Glimpse the Future. So you basically get to add some more Destiny dice, right?
So it's a 7+ on 2d6.
You have to have fewer than 6 when you roll it, but that's all right. You're going to want to be spending those anyways.
So you're considering if you get that every time, that's 4 more Destiny dice than you normally have.
Yeah,
so you have
potentially.
Destiny dice. And you get to cast all your spells every turn.
Yeah.
So like, that's the most random ineffectiveness one though. It requires on 2 sets of RNG to succeed versus a below odds, so a 6+ on 2d6 casting roll for Shield of Fate.
Yeah.
How do you feel about those two if you rank them against each other?
Oh, I don't know. I kind of like the Shield of Fate
Yeah.
just because of the reliability of it, like you said, because it's pretty easy to get the spell off and then roll a 1 or a 2.
And if you can bank it to have that card too, you can make a unit of Tzaangors almost invincible for it.
Yeah, which is really spicy.
Yeah, really
Give him a 5-up
Steel
or
Defense
4-up on a-
plus Shield of Fate, 4+ words against all the damage that you take all of a sudden with 10 wins on a unit.
Yeah.
They could be almost unkillable for an entire combat phase.
Yeah, which is pretty cool because then they just sit on that objective.
Sit on that
right?
button.
Yeah.
That's right. Then you got 2 once per battles. What are they?
So the first one is Demon Heart. You pick an enemy unit that's within an inch, and you inflict mortal wounds. How many is it? Equal to the number of the.
So on round 4, it's 4.
Yeah, which is not bad.
This is the something's gone horribly wrong. Right, this is the I'm afraid
your Magister's already in combat,
Yeah.
so things have already turned sideways.
Yeah.
It is probably round 3 or 4,
and it saves his life. It just saves his life. That's the thing is he's about to die. Some big badass heroes fought their way through the whole army to get to him, and they're about to kill him, and he just goes kaboom and blows up.
And you were gone. Thank you very much.
I feel like that's a super corner case. I see your army. You've got something that I know is going to fight its way to get to me.
Yeah.
I might be able to kill it with this. I would pick this one. But 1, it's a once per battle. 2, it requires your opponent to do something to make it worthwhile, right? Like track you down and corner you. I see the value, but it also isn't helping actively every single turn the way the spells are.
Exactly. And you're probably in bad shape.
And then what's the last one?
It. The last one is called Time Slip Pendant. Great Tzeentchian name. 9 inches of your general. You pick an enemy unit, and that guy is strike last.
Yeah, I feel like both these once per games are at the bottom. If I was going to rank these, I feel like Shield of Fate's up top, Glimpse of Future's next, Demon Heart's down there. Time Slip Pendant feels like the worst one of all.
Yeah, it really...
Again, it requires too much of your opponent to have done something, and they still get to fight. They just go last.
Yeah, exactly. So usually the type of unit you'd want to use it on is probably a pretty tough unit who wants to be stuck in anyways. And,
and you're not a melee-centric army, so having picked one of your enhancements to be about 1, having a general within 9, and then 2, pinning a unit to make it go last, it just doesn't feel like a good choice of enhancement. It might be important if you're fighting Sylvaneth and you can gang up on the tree man and you can make him go last and have everybody fight before him and maybe kill him after you've shot the absolute, bejesus out of him.
But this isn't an army that you're smoking people in combat. You're kind of beating them in the movement game. You're beating them, just with
in the
more
shooting
body
game,
and with the shooting.
Yeah, you have a lot of long range shooting.
Yeah. Like you can hold your own in the melee, but
but it's it's reactive, not active.
Yeah.
You don't have a unit that's like the Lord when we played the Lord Vigilant, who's just I'm gonna go kill that unit now, and then he just rides claps over there and goes and does it.
Yeah.
If you're only an objective, if he can roll the wound, he was hitting just fine. He couldn't wound. That was the problem. So then let's talk about battle tactics cards because now we're into the thick of the game. You've picked your enhancements. You decide you want to be the going second in round one is maybe double turn. And I do agree with you on that, because effectively you're getting 2 rounds of shooting. Your primary damage output is going to be shooting. You don't necessarily want to be in fighting, so you can position perfectly if you're going second in the first battle round.
Back.
Shoot again, then charge.
Yeah.
And then score all the cards in your hand all of a sudden, maybe.
Yeah.
And because you're maybe wanting to hang on to cards too, that gives you 2 opportunities to card cycle, because there's 2 cards that I think in particular are super important to you. And what do you think those are? Before I say what I think they are.
Well, I don't know, because I didn't see all the cards.
That's true. We mentioned a couple already.
Yeah.
The reinforcement card's the first one.
Yeah, that would be really nice to be able to bring back a unit.
You don't have any reinforcing units.
No, and that ward card you mentioned as well.
And Steel Defense.
Sounds pretty spicy.
Those are the 2 that pump into me. Reinforcement, because you don't have any reinforcing units, because you're going to play fast and loose with the Tzaangors, and then you have the Carrick Acolytes bringing that back. So like if you lose your Tzaangors, bringing D3 of them back anywhere that you want on the table, not within 6 of the enemy, and then Carrick Acolytes die, bring them back.
Do a spell,
change, brings them back. You can have 1 Tzaangor turn back into 5 Tzaangors potentially.
Yeah, pretty quick. Yeah,
by the end of the game. So that's a huge, I think, like card to hang on to as a pocket card for later on in the game. And then Steel Defense, because if you're only in the case that you're taking the ward save bonus, because you can effectively make one of your units like almost unkillable for a turn, which is huge.
That one did not come because I would have spent that one. There's a few times where I was like, oh that'd be real nice. I mean, especially if like Killing Hero comes for you, and then you're just like no and no, like first you put the ward save on, then you're like, and also Steel Defense. These guys are gonna. And they're like, oh. Especially mortal damage armies, because you now 4+ save against all that mortal damage too, which is because none of your Tzaangors and your acolytes do not have any ward saves, so they just get chewed up by that sort of thing. Yeah.
Any closing thoughts?
No, it was a fun army to play. I enjoyed playing the movement game. That I think that's where I scored a lot of points, was being able to get 3 inches from the edges, 3 inches from the back zone. So
weirdly, they feel like they're one of the most diverse lists because they do a little bit of everything.
It's like I complain about them in AOS that I had this army that was so disjointed, but it didn't feel like that in Spearhead.
No, it didn't.
Like it felt like they were all there. They all had their role to play. So
I'll be funny. My observation was it felt the most like a whole AOS army in Spearhead. You had rank and file. You had 2 like more slightly elite fighting units. You had 2 supporting units, one of which shot, one of which was like an outrider unit, which is the Screamers. And you had this cool support hero that could do a bunch of different tricks and like make guys more defendy, reach out and shoot people. Like it felt like one of the most well-rounded Spearheads on top of having one of the highest model counts in Spearhead.
There's a lot of dudes.
So it's forgiving, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And with the bring back Tzaangors and stuff, it was a good one, I think. For
you almost always had a unit to go grab an objective if you wanted to. You almost always had a unit that could reach out and touch somebody far away, and you almost always had a unit that was dying and coming back and dying and coming back. Like it was a lot of work for these 2 super elite fighters in our game to go and wipe people out, which was a lot.
That's it. I kind of just dodged around your army a lot of the time, and they were chasing me across the board.
I know. As weird as they look on the box, I do think these are one of the better beginner-friendly Spearheads for people to play, and that they have a lot of like. I don't feel like they're going to have a bad match.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They're so versatile that in the rock, paper, scissors of like, here's an elite force versus a not elite force. It feels like they don't have a bad pairing.
No.
Because they can kind of pivot into doing different jobs during the course of the game, which I think is really interesting for Spearhead.
If I had one complaint, it would be that I feel like they should be casting more spells just because of who they are. Sure, but I think you'd be greedy asking for another model
for one wizard to carry that whole thing. Yeah. I mean, you did have Gestalt magic on the acolyte.
Yeah, which is not a spell, really a spell, but it feels
kind of like a spell. Yeah. And then your wizard could potentially be doing 3 during the turn or 2.
2. Yeah.
That's right. Because bolt of change,
your regimental.
Then your regimental ability.
Yeah,
whether
it's the Destiny dice or the Ward one.
And then like Destiny dice on top of that too. You have to like hedge your bets. So there it is. Cool, man. Well, thanks for doing this with me.
My pleasure.
I hope you guys enjoy these Spear Tips faction guides for Spearhead. If you want to see more of these, there's more in the playlist already for Spearheads, as well as these same Spear Tips as a podcast format, which is available to my patrons on patreon.com. So thanks for watching. We'll see you for more Spearheads and Spear Tips in the future. Thanks for Chris coming in. Thanks, I'm Ash. We're gonna